Hello, it's David again. Hey, I saw an article today that really encouraged me. Any of you have been following my channel or just following the internet in general, on YouTube particularly, but in other platforms as well, for a number of years know there's just been this huge, what I call a corrupt communication complex of people just horribly communicating a terrible spirit, slandering and tearing down the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, trying to portray the most beautiful thing on earth as something dark and evil. And a lot of these people, sadly, are ex-Latter-day Saints. They were Latter-day Saints at one point. And they lost their faith. They started attacking the church. They left the church. Some of them were excommunicated. But as some of our general authorities have said, they've left the church, but they can't lead the church alone. So they've actually found, made careers for themselves, slandering and tearing down the Church of Jesus Christ on their YouTube channels. And of course, they also have presences on other platforms, many of them. And some of the most common of these you can see in the thumbnail here. And this is from a Salt Lake Tribune article, and I'm using this under fair use, copyright law. As long as you're reacting to a news article and it's newsworthy, you can use an article or a video or a podcast and react to it and as news. And that's what I'm doing here. I've been making videos defending the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, its faith and practice, which I just finally found about 3 years ago. I've been defending it from the Bible because as a lifelong evangelical, I know the Bible, and one of the big lies is that the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is somehow against the Bible, and nothing could be further from the truth. So that's been what I've been doing, and I've come under just tons of attack from these people because as people that want to tear down and defame the Church of Jesus Christ and the glorious light of the restoration, the most beautiful thing on earth, and they want to bury it in slander and innuendo and lies and believing the worst and portraying the worst about everything. And so just like in the days of Nehemiah, when Nehemiah came to seek the welfare of Zion and the rebuilding of the wall of Jerusalem, of course, the bad characters back then tried to tear him down. And I've faced a lot of that myself from the likes of, Mormon Stories, Radio Free Mormon, Mormon Discussion, Bill Reel, all of these characters. And so I'm not intimidated by it. I'm happy to bear whatever shame they can put on me in order to stand up for the truth and bear witness to the amazing difference finding the restored Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints has made in my life. I mean, I have a testimony that's true and real and can't be taken away from me, and I'm not going to be shut up, okay? But one of the things that's been so distressing about this is how you can see how, Mormon Stories, Radio Free Mormon, Mormon Discussion, and they use the word Mormon, and of course, initially, people don't know what the channel's about. They think it has something to do with the Mormon. They think they very easily can interpret it as being something that's put out by the Mormon Church. And of course, we'll see as we go through this news article. They claim, the Mormon Church disavowed the word Mormon, so, we can do whatever we want. But of course, they've been doing this for years. Most of them, things like Mormon Stories, have been around for 20 years. They were using the name long before President Nelson instructed us 7 years ago to get away from referring to ourselves as Mormons. Of course, the thing is, though, is that the whole world knows us as Mormons. They know us as Mormons. They do not know us. I spent my entire adult life, I spent 50 years of my adult life outside of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I never once heard anyone refer to the members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints as members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day. It was always the Mormons, or those damned Mormons, or those damned Mormon cultists, or or those deceived Mormons. That's all I ever heard us referred to, and it's still that way. I mean, you can see in the news, we're still called Mormons. We're still, that is still our identifier in the world at large, even though as a people, the 17 million members, we're moving away from it, and we're not referring to ourselves as Mormons. That's what everybody knows us as. Okay, so of course we still have a right. That's actually, the church actually has Mormon trademarked. Okay, so in any case, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is finally, they're pressuring Mormon stories and other critical anti-Latter-day Saint podcasts to rebrand, to stop calling themselves Mormon. Okay? That's great news, isn't it? I think it's great news. I mean, I have felt like this ever since I first started doing podcast supporting the faith and practice of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints from the Bible. And ever since, I mean, it's been very bothersome to me that these groups are able to portray themselves as Mormon this, Mormon that, Mormon news, Mormon stories, Mormon this, and they're not Mormon at all. They're anti-Mormon, okay? They're trying to destroy the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. So in any case, let's look at this story. I think it's quite interesting and quite encouraging. Hooray! The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints pressures Mormon stories and other critical podcasts to rebrand. Great news. And the particular 4 podcasts are Radio Free Mormon, that's Bill Reel, Mormon Discussion, again, Bill Reel, Mormon Stories, John DeLynn, and Mormon News Roundup, which is not one I'm really familiar with. I think that's a bit of a newcomer. But anyway, this is my reaction podcast, all right, done under fair use copyright law. Mormon trademark misuse is finally being opposed. Hurrah, hurrah, hurrah. Okay? So let's please pray that Heavenly Father would support these righteous requests of the legal department of the church to these characters to stop identifying their podcast as Mormon. All right? Okay, here we go. Mormon Discussion, Mormon Stories, Radio Free Mormon, Mormon News Roundup. Okay, the logos of podcasts and a podcast nonprofit that have found themselves in trademark tussles with the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. As I said, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints has Mormon trademarked. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints may essentially be done with the descriptor Mormon, but its efforts to enforce its trademark over the term remain very much alive. Okay? Now, as I already said, we're done with describing ourselves that way, but that's what we identified ourselves as, and we're identified by the world at large as for 188 of the last 195 years. And of course, we're just learning ourselves, the members of the church, which is like 0.2% of the world's population. We're learning to identify ourselves as 9 words, members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. That's actually 10 words. I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Actually, that's 11 words. So that's a bit of a mouthful. It's a lot more than I'm a Mormon. But we're happy to follow our prophetic direction in this. I think it's absolutely wonderful. But the fact is, as I said earlier, the whole world still calls us Mormons. That's what they know us as. So, of course, that's a trademark that we own, and rightly so, as a church. And, of course, it's righteous for us to make sure that that's not misused to misrepresent something as being of the Mormons that isn't of the Mormons, okay? All right. So the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints may essentially be done with the descriptor Mormon, but its efforts to enforce its trademark over the term remain very much alive. Then Church President Russell M. Nelson, speaking at General Conference in 2023, urged members, media, and scholars not to use Mormon when referring to the faith or its adherents. Now, it says 2023, but actually he first started saying that, I think, at a General Conference in 2018. All right? So this is a mistake in the article, Salt Lake Tribune article. Nevertheless, at least 4 different podcasts, all critical of the faith, have received emails in recent months from attorneys representing the church. Hooray for the church. Hooray for these attorneys. Thank you, Jesus. The letters request that their hosts nix Mormon from their branding or abandon attempts to trademark their show names containing the term. Those impacted include John DeLynne's Mormon Stories, a giant in the world of church-critical podcasting that has been operating under its current name for 20 years. Asked why church lawyers are targeting DeLynne and other critical voices now, the Utah-based Faith provided a general statement explaining that this is the official explanation of the church that was given to the author of this article. Like thousands of organizations, the church, like thousands of organizations, holds registered trademarks to prevent confusion about what is and isn't official church content or content otherwise affiliated with or approved by the church, unquote. It continued, quote, when we identify trademark or copyright infringement, our typical first step is to contact the individual privately to request they update their materials, with the goal of resolving the matter amicably. We apply this approach consistently with church members and non-members alike, unquote. You'd think that would be inarguable, wouldn't you? DeLynne and others argue, however, that the term Mormon should be fair game, especially given church leaders' efforts to distance the institution from the moniker, as well as its usage by more than Latter-day Saints. To date, the Salt Lake Tribune has not received any similar requests regarding its news-based Mormonland podcast and Mormonland newsletter of the same name. Mormon Stories responds, now here's this really sadly terrible man, John DeLynne, who just relentlessly slanders the church and lines his pockets with hundreds of thousands of dollars a year by doing so. He's made himself a very nice career out of tearing down the most beautiful thing on earth. In November, DeLynne received an email from Intellectual Reserve Incorporated, an arm of the church tasked with managing its intellectual property. The email asserted that the platform's use of the term Mormon, when paired with other visuals trademarked by the church, specifically the Christus symbol and a light raised design used to illuminate text, plus copyright images, could lead some to infer that Mormon Stories is affiliated with the global faith of 17.5 million members. Well, of course it would. And of course, people get sucked in, they're drawn, they think it has something to do with the Mormon church. They're not familiar with John DeLynne or Mormon Stories. They haven't watched any of the podcasts, but they go there, drawn by the name Mormon, they listen to those things, and that evil spirit of the accuser of the brethren, is just one of the names of Satan, in Revelation chapter 12, is the accuser of the brethren. That evil spirit communicates through John DeLynne and these guests that he sucks in to help him slander the church. And they're touched by that spirit. They swallow it. And the next thing you know, they're hooked and their faith is being destroyed and undermined. Okay? But when they weren't in that place when they went there. They're like, oh, Mormon Stories. I'd like to hear some stories about my church. Okay? Or they're interested in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, as millions of people are of the approximately 8 billion people on earth that aren't members of the Church of Jesus Christ, and they're interested. They'll go, hey, I want to find out what the Mormons are about, okay? Because the whole world really only knows us as Mormons. Everybody outside of the church only knows us as Mormons, and so they go, I'd like to check out and find out what the church, what the Mormons are about. And they see on YouTube, oh, Mormon stories. Oh, here's a way to find out what the Mormons are about. And they go there, and what they hear is slanderous slime, what I call a dead, rotten, stinking rat, that people are encouraged to chew up and swallow hook, line, and sinker, completely poisoning their view of the most beautiful thing on earth and portraying it as something dark and evil, which it absolutely isn't. And I say this as somebody that my entire life I believed all this slanderous garbage, that the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, the Mormons, were dark and evil cultists taking people to hell. I just finally found out the truth 3 years ago, that it actually is the most beautiful thing on earth. So I have a tremendous burden when I hear people, like John DeLynn, Mormon stories, Mormon discussions, and they're hooking people with the name Mormon that think they're going to go find out some objective truth about the Church of Jesus Christ, and what they hear is straight from the pit of hell. But they don't know that, and it's presented nicely, and it's persuasive, slanderous lies, okay? And it's just wrong that they should be able to identify themselves as Mormons, which is what 8 billion people in the world know us as, all right? That they should be able to identify themselves with that name. So anyway, John DeLynn says, we're expecting to be able to resolve this amicably, DeLynn said, without any need for litigation. Nevertheless, he's adamant he will not drop Mormon from the name. It refers to Mormon culture writ large, DeLynn said, and the church explicitly abandoned the Mormon identity under President Nelson. As I already said, this is a garbage argument. We're no longer referring to ourselves as Mormons, but the 8 billion people of the earth know us as that, okay? I'm going to give you a little example, and you'd have to be old like me, or maybe not quite as old as me, to remember this. But there was a time when Japanese automobiles began to be sold in large numbers, like in the 1970s and early 80s. The Japanese came in like gangbusters and started selling tons of cars in the United States for the first time. And there was Honda, and then there was Toyota, and what was the other one? Datsun, okay? Nobody demands more from a Datsun than Datsun. We are driven a long way. You remember that? Okay, if you're old enough to have been able to understand human speech in the 1970s and 80s, you heard that commercial 1,000 times. Datsun, we are driven. Datsun, we are driven a long way. Datsun, we are driven. Okay, Datsuns were Datsuns. That's what they were. For some crazy reason, in the 1980s, Datsun decided they wanted to change their name. The corporation in Japan was called Nissan, and they're like, oh, well, we really want all our cars in the United States to be known as Nissan. So they went through this whole rigmarole of, okay, Datsun is becoming Nissan. And so all of their cars would have, at first they were just Datsun. Then they had Datsun by Nissan in smaller letters. And then a year or two later, they had Datsun in smaller letters in big letters the same size by Nissan. And then they had, Datsun tiny, and then Nissan big, and then they dropped the Datsun. They spent hundreds of millions of dollars making this swap, okay? Rebranding themselves from Datsun to Nissan. But if 5 years after they did that, you started this channel, Datsuns are horrible garbage that kill people, and you can't accuse me of trademark infringement because you're not Datsun anymore. You're Nissan now. You want to be known as Nissan. Well, you know what? Nissan still had the trademark for Datsun. They still do. Okay, you want to get sued? Start telling lies about Datsun. All right. And of course, that would have been even more true just 5 years after they made this change. Just because we're at the very beginning stages of wanting to rebrand ourselves before the whole world, the whole 8 billion people that know us as Mormons, and we're just barely getting a handle ourselves on seeing ourselves not as Mormons, but as members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. So John Delaney, he's like, oh, you gave up the name. Garbage. We still have the trademark, and the name is still what we're known by 99.8% of the earth. All right. So I really hope that John Delaney is dreaming when he says that he's going to resolve this amicably without any need for litigation, without dropping the name Mormon from his name, because he uses the name Mormon to lure people in, of these 8 billion people that know us as Mormons, thinking they're going to find out what the Mormons are like. It's an absolute travesty. It's an absolute travesty that he's permitted to do that. And so I really, please pray that the Church of Jesus Christ will sue John Delaney into the ground if he doesn't drop Mormon from his podcast name. He has no business, if we have the trademark, he has no business using it to utterly misrepresent the most beautiful thing on earth as a pack of lies to the 8 billion people on earth that know us still as Mormons. Okay, so I'm getting this off my chest. I was so encouraged. It never even occurred to me that the church could do this, that the church could essentially use legal means to keep people from misusing our church name, which is trademarked. I had no idea. So I'm like, this is so wonderful, isn't it? Please pray that the church will stop John Delaney from luring in unsuspecting people from those 8 billion to give them the most horrible first impression imaginable of what the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints actually is. It's actually the most beautiful thing on the face of the earth, and he misrepresents it as being dark and evil and ugly and something to avoid at all costs. Okay? So Burke Sorensen, the host of Mormon News Roundup, hosts a much newer and in terms of reach much smaller show than Mormon Stories, albeit no less critical. In May, Sorensen received an email from an attorney from the Texas firm Perky Barber. The lawyer, who last year, challenged a Utah brewery's use of Deseret in the name of one of its beers, said the firm represents the church and Intellectual Reserve Incorporated in intellectual property matters. Like the email sent to Delaney, the one Sorensen received expressed concern that some might wrongly conclude the channel is formally associated with the church. Formally associated with the faith. Unlike the Lindsay email, however, it said nothing about imagery, zeroing in only on the use of Mormon as the issue. The public has come to strongly and uniquely associate the Mormon marks with the church, the email stated. The church places high value on that association as it allows individuals to identify the church's legitimate and authorized information, services, and goods. Like Delaney, Sorensen has no plans to drop the term. We're not, he said, going gently into that good night. Please, I plead with the church, if anybody involved with this business that's associated with this situation of protecting the Mormon trademark, please don't drop this. Please don't let them get away with this. Please, if they want to get away with this, let them have to spend money hand over fist to actually defend this in court, because it's indefensible. They're luring people in, as I've already said several times, of the 8 billion people on earth that know us as nothing other than Mormons, into going to their websites, their news roundup, their Mormon stories, their Mormon discussions, their Radio Free Mormon, thinking they're going to find out about what's true about the Mormon church. And what they find there is an absolute pack of lies, but it's presented persuasively as if it wasn't. And so this needs to be stopped. It really needs to be stopped. Okay, to date, the church has not been put pressure on the church-critical podcast Radio Free Mormon and Mormon Discussion, or their parent nonprofit, Mormon Discussions, to excise the M word from their products. Nevertheless, Bill Reel, executive director and co-host, received an email from Intellectual Reserve Incorporated last month informing him the church is, quote, prepared to oppose his applications to trademark both names. Okay. Let me see here. I'm going to have to go down here and add some space. There's a picture of Bill, good old Bill. Podcaster Bill Reel said he tried to trademark the names Radio Free Mormon and Mormon Discussions after someone launched copycat podcasts. Soon after, he received a notice from the church asking him to rescind his applications. The church respects your right to free speech and has no desire to censor the speech on your podcast, website, or social media accounts in any way, the email Reel received stated. However, the church has an obligation to protect its Mormon trademarks as unique identifiers to prevent confusion. Reel isn't buying the confusion argument. Okay, well, it's a good argument nevertheless, okay? Nobody, he said, is mistaking our work for official church channels. That is an absolute lie, and Bill Reel knows it. There's 8 billion people on earth. We have 85,000 full-time missionaries in 190 countries going out, proclaiming the gospel, proclaiming the beauty of the restored gospel, proclaiming the atonement of Jesus Christ, making people aware of this incredible restored church that's on the planet with living apostles and prophets that actually has the gospel and the church structure that was initiated by Jesus Christ 2,000 years ago. And so all over the earth, the pot is being stirred by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and by our 85,000 missionaries. And so millions of people, of the 8 billion people that only know us as Mormons, millions of them would have to go online. These people, of course, maybe they don't know what that we are, but they see it's the Book of Mormon, and everybody says, "Oh, stay away from the Mormons! Stay away from the Mormons! Don't listen to the Mormons!" And they're like, they don't know what to think, and they're like, "Oh, wow, I don't know what to think about these Mormons." They get online, they Google, Mormons. What about the Mormons? They go on YouTube. Are the Mormons evil? Or blah blah blah, and so. Then they see, Mormon stories, Mormon discussions, Radio Free Mormon. They're like, this is interesting. Mormon News Roundup. This is a way where I can find out what these Mormons are really all about. Of course, because they think from the word Mormon that it's affiliated with the church. And they go to it, and what they receive is this disgusting pack of slanderous lies, nicely packaged and persuasively presented. And it's not right. It's just wrong, okay? So anyway, he says nobody's mistaking our work for official church channels. Okay? When somebody first goes there, of course, Mormon discussions. Maybe that's a church Bible discussion group. You could think anything. For him to say nobody is mistaking Mormon discussions for something affiliated with the Mormon Church, what the whole world, 8 billion people, know us as the Mormon Church, is intellectually dishonest in the extreme. Bill, it's not true. You know that there's lots of people, and actually you and John Bellin, all of you characters who continue to use the word Mormon, use it precisely because of that. You know that this is a way for you to hook people who are trying to find out about Mormons, what they know as Mormons, and don't necessarily have a fully formed opinion yet. So, just go away with this, nobody's mistaking our work for official church channels. It's just not true, Bill Reel, and it's not true. So, Reel also believes the fact that adherents of multiple faiths tracing their roots back to Joseph Smith, claim the term should count for something, an argument Electronic Frontier Foundation made in 2016. However, the podcaster who said he started looking into trademarks to counteract the sudden appearance of copycat podcasts bearing identical names said he doesn't really feel like he has a choice given the depth of the church's pockets. I don't want to comply, Reel said, but I feel bullied into doing so. Well, thank God for that. Thank God you feel bullied into doing so and into not trying to trademark these names of yours, like Radio Free Mormon and Mormon Discussions that use the word Mormon in the name. But the next step, Bill, that I hope the church sends you the next letter saying you need to drop Mormon from the name. Because you do. You need to drop Mormon from the name. It's intellectually and morally dishonest and slimy that you use the name Mormon to attract unwary people who want to find out more about the Mormon Church, and they see Mormon and they only know us as Mormon, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. They only know us as Mormon. And so they come to your channel and listen to your slimy, slanderous lies, nicely presented and persuasively packaged. So, in any case, I'm just really encouraged that the Church of Jesus Christ and their deep pockets are taking action on this. And I just plead for everyone that loves the Restored Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and loves just simple justice and righteousness and doesn't like to see the theft of intellectual property, that you would just go ahead and go ahead and pray. Let's all pray that our church's legal department, wherever the direction for this is coming from, that it would not stop until this misuse of that name by which the entire earth knows us is not used in an unrighteous way to hijack people who are trying to find true information about the Restored Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. So in any case, I was just really encouraged to hear about this. And right back here to the initial thumbnail, all I can say is hooray. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints pressures Mormon Stories and other critical podcasts to rebrand. As far as I'm concerned, this is great news, and I'm just so thankful for the direction that the legal department of the church is taking. And I'm sure they're not taking this without direction from our spiritual leaders. This isn't something they would just do independently on their own. This is something that I'm sure has come from the leaders of the church, and I'm so thankful that it has. Let's say a prayer. Heavenly Father, we're just so thankful for this amazing restored Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints that you have raised up on the earth over the last 195 years. And even though now we've been clearly directed that we should know ourselves and present ourselves as a Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, the whole earth, the 8 billion people on earth still know us as the Mormons. And we're just so thankful that the church had the foresight to trademark that name, and that they have the legal right and the moral right and the moral responsibility to defend that name against misuse and misrepresentation. And we just ask that you would just strengthen and encourage all those involved in this, and that you would give them insight and understanding to pursue this to the end, and that this corrupt communication complex of channels that use the name Mormon to draw people in and then utterly misrepresent and slander and defame the most beautiful thing on earth, that they would actually be compelled to stop misusing the name that you gave us, that we've become known by all over the earth. And we're just so thankful We're just so thankful for our leaders and so thankful for your loving kindness and your tender mercy towards us. And we just pray that you would strengthen our beloved prophet, President Dallin H. Oaks, and his counselors, and the quorum of 12 apostles, and all the general authorities, all of our bishops, our stake leaders, and especially, Heavenly Father, strengthen and encourage our missionaries all over the earth. Strengthen and encourage all the podcasters and social media people in the church that make positive and encouraging, honest content about your glorious restored gospel and church. And please hinder and oppose those who lie and slander against the church and misrepresent it. And we just ask these things in the name of thy beloved Son, Jesus Christ. Amen. I want to play a little song. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is the most beautiful thing on earth. And anything we can do to delight in the truth and denounce deception against it is a privilege to do. This is a little song I'm sure many of you have heard me sing before, but I love this. I learned this song 49 years ago, actually. Zion, Zion, beautiful, beautiful Zion, we're marching upward to Zion, the beautiful city of God. Sing it with me. Zion, Zion, beautiful, beautiful Zion, we're marching upward to Zion, the beautiful city of God. Father, Father, when will the wedding be? When will I sit by your side like a beautiful bride and bathe in your presence? Zion, Zion, beautiful, beautiful Zion, we're marching upward to Zion, the beautiful city of God. Father, Father, when will the wedding be? When will I sit by your side like a beautiful bride and bathe in your presence? Love you all. Got a very exciting video podcast that I'm going to be making tomorrow that should go up on Thursday morning. So keep an eye out for that. It's going to be really wonderful, I think. So pray for me. See you again soon. Bye-bye.
Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints actually is the only true church on
It is,
the earth.
that's right.
More times than I can count. I heard slander spoken against like it was absolute gospel truth and impossible to refute. But the truth is that you're believing that the most beautiful thing on earth is a cult, and that only a fool would believe otherwise. And that's why it took me till I'm 68 years old, man, to even take the Ark of God, the holy city, the Church of Jesus Christ, restored on the earth with true apostles and prophets, the most beautiful men to follow on the whole planet, to even look at them and give them a listen. It took me 47 years. I spent 47 years trying to find what was right there in front of me, man.
President Nelson promised us that we would see the
greatest manifestations of the Savior's power that the world has ever seen. He will bestow countless privileges, blessings, and miracles upon the faithful.
This man, finding the restored gospel truths that he's been seeking for 47 years, is one of those miracles. And there are millions of people out there just like David, honest seekers of truth, who are only kept from the truth because they know not where to find it. Lost in the accusatory fog, as David puts it. Not even thinking to give Latter-day Saints a serious thought. But we know where to find it. We are enjoying the fruits of it. The question is, are we sharing it?
Just a reminder, if you like the video, if you like what we're doing, please try to remember, hit like, hit subscribe if you're not subscribed, and also hit the notification bell so when we put something out, you get a little notification of it. Love you all. Bye-bye.